Welcome back to The Why with Dwyane Wade. This is part 2 of my conversation with the legend, Pat Riley. Coming up, we're going to talk about some of the things I would do in games to make him mad. And also, too, we're going to talk about the decision to trade for the big fella Shaq, which sent my good friend Lamar Odom and Caron Butler to L.A., but brought Shaq that came with a championship later. We also going to discuss how Heat culture was built from scratch. We'll get into all that when we come back. You were my coach, and then Stan were my coach, then you were my coach. But the message was the same.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing changed from the standpoint of the message. And the message was that we were going to work our asses off.
Yeah.
Right? And we were going to do it, and we were going to build this unity, this family, this brotherhood together, and we're going to win together and lose together. And so to be able to come in and 3 years later to be in the NBA Finals with one of the greatest players ever played in Shaq.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I didn't want to allow that opportunity, that moment to, because I knew about being a fan of the game that those moments don't come often, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I had a moment and I wanted to seize it. Where were you at that point in your profession where you have already won, but you didn't win? As we talked about, it was 88 was the last time that you had won. And now you're back in the seat again. Where were you at in that moment of 2006 when we entered the NBA Finals? Because we wasn't the best team all year.
Right.
So where were you at in understanding, like, okay, I may not have the best team, but what did you know you had to be able to win that championship?
Well, if you get there, with you and with Shaq, I got a shot.
That's like, if we get there, we got a shot.
If we get there, we got a shot. And we did have a checkered regular season. I remember a game, that year, and GP was the best. He was my favorite that year, Gary Payton Sr. And so we got our ass whipped one night in Dallas during the regular season. It was 40. Really bad. Remember?
About 40.
Yeah, by 40. And so, I wasn't too happy after the game. And so, the locker room was quiet. I know where you were sitting in the corner, Shaq was like, everybody was quiet. I'm just walking back and forth for like 4 or 5 minutes, just walking. Didn't say a word, just walking. And then Gary shouts out, he said, "Okay, coach, what we going to do?"
Right.
Okay, what are we going to do? Okay. And I said, and I yelled back at him, "Okay, what do you think we should do, Gary? What do you think we should do?" And then I got off. I went off. I started talking about, I think you need to have an attitude adjustment. You, Gary Payton Sr., who's never won a title. So I went off like, I didn't go off on everybody, but I said, if you will follow me, I said, Gary, if you will follow me, I can get you there. That's all I can do. If you'll follow me. But if you won't, then we're not going to have a chance. So players somewhere have to believe that a head coach can get them there. He can't win it for them. He might be able to get them there. Right. It's like if I diagram a play for you, to win a game, my job is to get the ball to you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't create the shot. Now, if I can create a play off of an out-of-bounds play that gets you a wide-open shot, well, that's something that maybe I scouted. The important thing is to get it to you. And I remember the pass. I remember the pass at half court in game 3. Was it game 3?
Game 3
we came back and it was the last shot where you had to dribble through everybody.
Oh, yes. It was half court.
But it was inbounded in the air, and you saw it. You were going to go into the back court for a violation.
Well, I was in the front court.
Right.
I jumped in the back court.
You had to.
I had to jump in the back court because I would.
Right?
Yeah, because if I would have called it in the front court, first of all, they would have trapped me.
That's right.
And so I needed to give myself some space. Yeah. But I had to jump back.
Right.
Because I couldn't have both a feet here and a feet there.
I know. And then you took off.
Yeah, then I just
2-5 guys. That wasn't me. that was not me.
You just gave me the
left,
ball.
You went through there, through the legs to the right. There's 3 guys coming at you. Somehow you got it to the rim, and then Nowitzki, followed you on the play, and he followed you. There's no doubt.
There's no doubt.
No, but But that whole thing about giving players that opportunity. I didn't even know where I went. Now we're off into another tangent here. So what was the question you asked me?
well, just about in 2006. Like, what did you see like to help us get there? And you said it's really just making sure like it's kind of like putting you in a position. Follow me, get me here. Then from there, y'all got to do what y'all do.
Yeah, I thought against Detroit in Game 6 here at the arena when we won the Eastern Conference Finals. The year before we lost the 7th game because you were hurt, with the rib, and then that next year, when we blitzed Detroit. I mean, Jay Will was 10 out of 11. We just had a great game.
Yeah, we smashed them.
I mean, it was a wonderful celebration here, but that also might have softened us a little bit, And so we went to Dallas. We got wiped the first 2 games, did not play well at all, and we're down 13 in the third quarter. But I always feel like, until it's really over. I mean, we're pretty much in dire straits, and then you took over and got us that first win. And then I always say that you got us the first win, and then Dallas helped us in the second and third wins. We went and sequestered everybody up in Fort Lauderdale.
All the media, I remember all that. Yeah, they move hotels.
And so there's drama and everything. And so, but if you get to the finals, I think players, will understand that, like you say, you can't let this opportunity get away because you'll never get it again.
Yeah, I think star players got to win you 2 games. I think your coach got to win you 1. Yeah. And I think your role players got to win you 1. Yeah. That's how you get to your 4. Yeah. Right? Like, and so in my mind, I was like, I gotta win us 2 games.
Right.
If we're gonna win this championship.
You did. The games 3 and 4.
Yeah. I went off in game 4.
Oh yeah. And
I went off in game 4.
I know you did. And it was just an incredible thing, as you say. And then in game 6, you needed help.
And needed help.
Okay, they're coming after you.
Yeah.
And I mean, 4 of the biggest baskets in the fourth quarter. I mean, Posey hit the corner 3. Yeah. UD hit a baseline jumper. Yeah. UD hit a elbow jumper. UD got the offensive rebound. And then we get caught with about 5 seconds to go in the court on the clock. And James Posey's in the left corner. And I said, no. And you're being denied by 3 guys. And James drives to the middle and hits a little runner. Mm-hmm. Shaq got a dunk in that whole run. So besides you missing the 2 free throws at the end of the game that could have solidified it. See, I had
to put a little drama in the game. I can't believe, to this day, I cannot believe I missed both of those free throws. I was so confident going to the line.
I screwed you up.
Because we had that little quick conversation before.
But here's what you did. You see, you created almost what is a sacrilege at that moment when you're on the brink of winning a world title of thinking this is one. Because we had a timeout. He called timeout. And so we had a timeout. I know you're going to get 2. We're ahead 3. He's just got to make 1.
I just hit like 6 in a row.
And so he stands up before he break the huddle and he puts his arm around my shoulder. Like, this is over.
We got this.
And I said, make the fucking free throws.
Yeah, just go make the fucking free throws.
and then he missed both. And then Gary Payton picked up full court and he fouled the shit out of Jason Terry. Grabbed his jersey, and we ended up winning the title. But the greatest image, though, is when I saw it miss. I knew we're winning again. When I saw it miss and go way up, and you get the rebound, and then you threw it in the air, and then that was it. It's that moment. That moment. Think about it, Dwyane. That moment is the most euphoric moment in sports. It's the moment when you know you just won a title. Now you hug and you kiss, and everything is great and celebrate. Everybody loves everybody. So it was our first great moment, really great moment of celebrating absolute recognition.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the same for you, but knowing your story, I remember you guys lost in 84?
Yeah.
And then you came back and won in 85.
Yep.
And that was probably one of your favorite championships, right? And so to lose in 02 the way we did, and then to come back and win, and I'm sorry, to lose in 05 like we did, and come back and win in 06 the way we did. Yeah. To me, that's my 85 moment. At all the things that I accomplished, that if that felt the best.
Yeah.
Because of the year before, losing in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Definitely, those kinds of experiences, because you learn from, a lot from those experiences. We didn't have the hate, and I hate to use that word, for Detroit that the Lakers had for the Celtics. And so that whole rivalry was different.
Yeah.
We would have probably developed that kind of relationship with Detroit if we played them 5 or 6 times, so especially in the playoffs.
Detroit or Dallas?
Detroit.
Detroit, like
Eastern Conference. So we didn't have that. So we lost to them the year before.
Right.
You got hurt, and then we won it. But we didn't. It wasn't won on because we hated them. Right. We just beat them. We beat them really good. We were better. And for a player to be able to, I think, rise above it, which is what you did in certain role players. I can remember I mentioned Jay Will in that game, but also, and I mentioned Posey and Udonis and Shaq. They weren't role players, but they were significant players that had no fear.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, they didn't have any fear and to close it. And it's hard to close a game. It's hard to close a championship game out, close one. Yeah.
How do you continue to muster it up, right? Okay, you got that championship in 06. You've done it. You're at the mountaintop. Now you want to do it again and again and again. But you have years in between where you lose. How do you keep redefining yourself and keep wanting to be on that stage again? Like, what is it in you that breeds that?
Well, I think the point that I was trying to make in the last segment here, or the last comment, was, see, this 2006 championship ring, that one right there, okay. And if you want to, zoom in on it, you can zoom in on it. But that championship ring, with the bezel in the back, and with the trophy, that was the 85, exactly the 85 version, but very small. So when we won in 2006, that's what I showed Mickey, and I said, that's what we should keep it simple and elegant, not too big. But it reminded me of 85, going back and how we had to come back from what they called the Memorial Day Massacre. And so even though it's symbolic, you go all the way back and remember, what you're talking about, that, 84, was an absolute choke on our part. I hate to use that word, the Lakers and myself, to lose when we probably could have solidified the win, a little bit like in 2010, 11. We should have won game 2, but that's over with, and you learn from that stuff. You really do.
Hard losses. Them hard lessons right there.
And then in 85, it reminds me of what your breakthrough was when James Worthy. See, in 85, besides Kareem being the MVP of the series, James Worthy arrived as a young player in 85 because he had a tough 84 series, but in 85, he just dominated. And so somewhere another player will actually rise to the occasion. When you got Kareem and when you got, Worthy and Magic and Cooper and Scott and all of these great players, one of those guys will rise to the occasion in 3 or 4 games, and end up helping you really win a championship. So that was your year. In 2006.
Yeah. How do you muster it up? Like, you've been in. Your first coaching was in 81. I was born in 82, so that's been 42 years for you.
55.
And so plus
from 67.
Right, so 67. How do you 55 years in this, Pat? Like, how do you keep it? How you keep going to want to be the best?
It's not about that anymore.
What is
for
it?
me, it's not about being the best anymore. It's not about, and we talk about legacy. Everybody else can talk about those things, and people have asked me to retire and move on. And so there's the one thing that I still love about the game is I love the competition. So I love the competition. I'm not a big fan of today's game. I'm not.
I'm sure.
But I have to adapt like everybody else does to the contemporary game and the contemporary player, which I have done. The people that have been working with me here for 28 years, I respect so much that they're now doing whatever they're doing at a very high level. And when I leave, they can just move and keep the ship going unless they want to change it. So I do it because I can't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
You know, I can't retire. I hate golf. I'm about as good as you are, so I don't like golf.
I'm not good at all.
And
I did get a hole in one.
I don't do tennis. I don't do pickleball. I play pool, very good. I play Texas Hold'em really good.
Okay.
Okay. I can play backgammon and chess really good.
They're not going to give you what they're not going to give you what that arena give you on at 7 o'clock at night.
I used to love. I couldn't get into the games, but all the games that you guys had up in the front playing those poker games, I wanted in on those games so bad.
Really?
Oh yeah, I used to go up there and I used to see all this money in the middle of the table. And it happened in New York too, because you had a bunch of gamblers there. Okay, guys. I mean, there were like thousands of dollars in the pots and stuff like that. And I used to go up and say, okay, let's shut this down here a little bit. And they'd look at me like, why? I said, because one of you are going to get hurt. And they say, what do you mean hurt? No, one of you are going to lose $100,000 one night, and you're going to be hurt by that. I don't care who it is.
Right, you're going to be hurt by that.
We had one player do that, and he was like depressed for like a week. I said, I want all of you to give the money back to that guy so we can get him back playing again. So, but anyhow, that doesn't keep me in the game, but that's why I don't have any other real hobbies out there. Chris and I are, solid. Kids are growing. They're in Colorado, have places to go. I still live in Malibu, and I love the game.
Yeah.
So that's it. So until Mickey says, if I keep forgetting all the time, he's okay, let's. But I just love the game. I love these guys. I love second guessing everything every day, and I tell Spo, I second guess you all the time.
Yeah.
I just do. It's a coach, So I was talking to him yesterday about what I call the DMZ zone now.
DMZ.
DMZ. In this game, okay, that's the demilitarized zone, okay, DMZ zone. It's like, it's like a war. You can't go over it or back. One of the it's a DMZ line. They have it in South Korea and North Korea. It's called the DMZ line up there. They don't let anybody go across either way. And so from the free throw line to the other free throw line is the DMZ zone. You know it very well. He knows this line very well. Because what is the one thing that you used to do to piss me off all the time? You didn't what?
Run back?
Yeah. But I took into account that used to drive to the basket, 20 times a game and get knocked down 15.
People way bigger than me.
Yeah. And so he's always hitting the floor. And of course, they'd run out and then he'd be getting up. Sometimes he'd be upset at the official and yelling at the official.
Too much.
But they're scoring at the other end. And so that DMZ zone between free throw line and free throw line today is the most important part of building your defense because you got to transition. I mean, if you take a look at Indiana, if you're not getting back against Indiana, for instance, they're scoring. I mean, it's unbelievable the pace that they're playing at. So it's really hard to go from offense, and especially and Jimmy Butler is the same way today because he hits the floor all the time, is to get up and get back. And if you can't get up and really get back, then there has to be two guys that are saving.
That's holding the fort down.
That's saving it until you can get the last guy coming back. And then when he didn't get across half court, I used to call it a dog trot. I said, Dwyane, you were dog trotting last night. On defense, he didn't like that word. And but we can conquer that this year as a team, the DMZ, and get back for real and turn and defend. You could save 16, 17 points a game.
How you do that? Building trust? Let's try to build.
No, it's effort. It's transition. It's
drilling. For your guys, right? Yeah, for the guys to hold it down. It's a trust that's built in.
Yeah, we used to call it back on the raise. Okay, back on the raise. So every time somebody raised on a jumper, okay, wherever the jumper came from on the raise, people were heading back, except for maybe one offensive rebound, like Zoe or Shaq, go to the offensive boards. And so you got to get two guys back, and then the third guy's got to get back. And it has to be for real, and it's got to be, something that is defensive, not defensive, because when you're backpedaling, you got the ball coming at you, so it's hard to guard that. And if you don't have enough guys back, then guys are going to get shots at will. They're going to get layups, so they're going to get threes. And that's today's game. And the fact that every team in the league has trained for the early transition layups or the early transition lobs or the early transition threes. You got to get back. Otherwise, you're going to get beat by teams that run. I mean, you look what happened last night. And they just outran them. They had 135 points in the game. And I'm talking about Indiana over Milwaukee in the in-season tournament. So conditioning is the biggest part of that, Dwyane. And so one of the problems that I had as a coach, and I didn't change it enough, is I had too many hard practices. I did.
Oh, well. Wow. But you say that to my good ear?
I had too many hard practices.
Man, somewhere Tim Hardaway is rolling over in his grave. Somewhere all these players was like, what?
Yeah, but I didn't realize it until later on. But everybody practiced hard at the time. But I had too many hard practices. And then I started to change it. As a matter of fact, when Shaq came. And instead of pounding the court the day after a game, what'd we do?
We would ride that bike.
Ride that bike. And we had the heart monitors on, and they were all attached to one big screen, and we had number 3 up here.
We were ready to practice. We were like, let's put us on the court.
And so I didn't want you to like pound, but this was okay, but I wanted to get the heart rate up. And so and Bill was out there, and Bill would monitor everything. And so we'd do 45 minutes of real interval training to get your cardiovascular up. And so that's what I see today. Guys who aren't in shape, but their bodies are 230 and 5% body fat, their cardio is not there because they're not doing enough running. They're not doing enough cardio at home. They're not, and we don't do it here. And so that was my way of softening the practices, but you guys would rather run up and down.
I'd rather run up and down the court. Yeah, I mean, I think we all know it's a conversation out there about heat culture, and everyone wants to know, like, what's the secret sauce, right? Everyone's like, even with me, they're like, what's the sauce? What's the sauce? I mean, we talked about a little bit going back to why and how you got on the basketball floor. And so I understand a little bit more how the culture, where it was built at. But how do you feel about something as simple as the culture that you brought in being something that's trying to get duplicated year after year after year from all these different organizations?
Well, it's the continuity of it. And, you know, I mean, there's so much written about culture today, and a lot of it in reference to the Heat, that a lot of people want to throw up. They're tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
And that, like, it's almost like, are they the only ones that have a culture? No, everybody has a culture. And a culture is simply a shared vision and of what it is you want to do to get to where it is you want to go. And so it's a shared vision of what you have to do to get there. And so it's up to the coach to create the philosophy. It's not just the acronyms of hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, nastiest, meanest, disliked team in the league, whatever. You know, whatever that moniker is, you can take each one of those acronyms and you can talk about that for 30 minutes, hard work, conditioning, and what it takes and all that stuff. And so once you set the tone about what your philosophy is going to be, and you have to then paint the picture, and it's like an image. You know, you paint the picture of what it's going to look like, because we do these things. This is what it's going to look like, and then you start showing pictures of championship parades, and confetti coming down, and baseball hats, with caps, with championships on, and you start showing them. That's what we want, and this is how it's going to look. Right. And then you have to sear that image into a team and a player's mind every day. You have to talk about it every day so they see it, they believe it, they'll do the things that it's going to take to get there.
But you got to hold them accountable.
No, yeah, but that determines their behavior, and it fuels their motivation, and it inspires them. But you still have to motivate them, and you have to push them every day towards that image. Some guys say, I'm enough already. Okay, that's like 6 months down the road. Let's not even talk about championships. And so I was opposite of that. I was always trying to paint that picture of what it looked like, and things. So a culture is important. It's one that becomes more organic. Guys gravitate to the message. Guys buy into it, and guys start to talk to each other about it. And guess who holds those accountable?
We hold each other accountable to it.
The locker room holds each other accountable. And when there's one bad one in the locker room, or two or three bad ones, and I don't say this, or naysayers that don't want to buy it, then you got to get their head straight, or you got to come into my office and say, you got to trade that guy because he's not helping. And so I've always sort of depended on the players to sort of manage that kind of culture. Magic did it, as Patrick in New York, in the beginning. So, and Tim believed in it, even though he didn't like it. You became the culture carrier. And we always forget about, UD that year that you got drafted. We ended up getting probably, if you were to redraft that year, he'd probably be a lottery pick, UD, as good as he was.
Yeah.
So you got to have those kind of men, Dwyane, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah, I tell people all the time on the outside when they ask me, I always say, all these things, but I say, if no one is holding you accountable to these things, then it doesn't even matter. Right? Yeah. Like, best condition. Okay, who's holding me accountable to be best condition?
Right.
Because a lot of people are saying things, but it's no follow through with it, or they're allowing for mistakes to continue to happen. It's like it's no accountability to making sure that play is ran perfect on 5 on 0, 5 on 1, whatever it is, right? And so it's that accountability that allows your culture to stand up strong.
And knowing that there's no such thing as perfection.
Right.
That there's always going to be mistakes, and that you learn to deal with them and overcome them, develop the intelligence not to continue to make the same mistakes, but you will again and again and again. And from that standpoint, so, the players hold each other accountable. The head coach simply has to devise a system and a plan whereby he can do these things, where he can, set up practices that will, if I believe in closing out with the inside foot up to make sure we're pushing everybody baseline, then that's what we're teaching on our closeout drills. We're running out, left foot inside up, we're going to force them baseline, we're going to slide, we're going to try to take them to all of these things that we used to do.
Yeah.
If you remember, 3-line rush, we would start with,
Oh, I remember.
and then we'd go right to, advanced retreat defensive drills. Then let's do 6. We come back, we do a driving line. Let's do 9. Then we come back and do. And so 35 or 45 minutes of running and defensive work, period. That started our practices. And then we'd get into running 5 on 0 offense or whatever it was at the time. So I have to devise the plan. The players have to say, this is good. I remember Eddie Jones said to me one time, we used to call it the 5 series. And we used to run a lot of stuff for Eddie, different than you. But a lot of the stuff, too, we put in. And so I remember in training camp, Eddie Jones, we were running all his plays one day. And he said, oh, man, this is good stuff, Coach. I'm going to love this stuff, And then, of course, he came and took it all away from him. But we ran it for both of you. And so I had you on one side, he was on the other side. We had a good team that year. That Stan's first year was a really good team.
I loved it. I actually really loved that team.
That team could have developed,
Yeah. You ain't let it develop, though.
No, I didn't. When Shaq came on the market, I said, he's got at least 3 more years. And I also believe, I said, Dwyane deserves it, and, I hated to give up, I hated to give up Karan and Elo, and I hated to give up Brian. Brian had to go because of the money, but I mean, Lamar Odom and Karan were, if the 3 of you could have just stayed together for 3 or 4 more years, we probably would have, I would have got another center if it wasn't Shaq or something.
Does that happen often?
What?
Where you have those moments where you're like,
oh, I hated that.
I hate to give up certain guys.
Yes, I hated to make that trade. But I also, was it my desperation that I needed a title after all these years and win since '88? And I said, you know what? I got about another year left of me. I'm going to go for it. Okay, hell with it. As long as Dwyane, and they, believe me, they hit me over the head with the bat to get you. That was it. They didn't want, no. And then eventually I cracked on LO. from that standpoint. But we ended up getting the result, and that's what my job was at the time. Yeah.
Do you have any regrets?
Yes, but not many, because you can't. You can't
Right.
as a player, and because there's just so many repetitions and so many things that happen, so many games and so many things, missed shots at the end that I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that.
You wish you could have it back.
Yeah, you can have it back. You don't get them back. And that's sports. That's professional sports. And sometimes it's very, very painful to go through something that that you might have done wrong, or you made a mistake, a bad decision, and I mean,
that's life. I mean, that's all.
It is life.
All points of life.
It's like.
But does that breed regret, or because we learn in those moments, right?
Yeah.
Is that's where we grow in those moments?
Yeah. I think you regret it when you're younger. When you're my age, you don't regret it anymore. It becomes sort of maybe wisdom.
Yeah.
That it happened. These are the things that happened to me in my life that actually keeps me where I am today. And because I learned from it. I would say if there's one thing I could, you always say, could I do it over again? If you're in a teacher's mode, a coach's mode or something for so long, is I wish I would have used different words in talking to my teams and to the players. That's all. And so I only learned that as I got older and older and older, and so that's the only thing I wouldn't do it differently, but I would have talked to players differently, because I was a yeller and screamer. That's what it was. And so now we can do a therapy session, take me all the way back to my upbringing. I don't want to do that.
How has and throughout this whole journey of all the things in basketball, which have been, you have one of the greatest basketball stories that has ever been put out here. But how has it been to be able to watch your other family grow? I love to hear you talk about being a granddad, because it softens you up a little bit. How has that been, like, throughout this whole time, being able to have Chris by your side? You guys go through this 55 years of basketball together, watch your kids grow, and now to be a granddad at the same time of having all this success on this side.
Right.
How has that been?
Well, it's just, I think that's the circle of life for you.
Yeah.
They call the golden years for older people like myself the golden years, and they're not. Because when you get to the golden years, you think that everything's going to be easier, and palm trees and oceans and travel.
It's not? You telling me it's not?
No, because it's painful. You're managing illnesses and diseases, and and kids, and you think the kids are tough when they're like teenagers or lesser than that. Sometimes in their 30s, they're even challenging. But no, the grandkids, Olivia and Connor, are beautiful children. You just spend Thanksgiving with them. My two children are very responsible, from the standpoint, Elizabeth and James and their spouses. And so I'm happy to see that they're happy. And I'm happy to see that they're growing and that they're independent. And when we go visit, Chris and I go visit, I leave a message, I said, when we come, you know how mom and dad are, as far as we want things, but, in a certain thing. I don't want to have to work, when I come out to visit you guys. And so they both live in Colorado. I miss them dearly. Chris FaceTimes every single night. She brings me in with Connor, and we can't get him off the computer. He's just like his father. They're both like digital geniuses and algorithms and everything already. He's just turned 12. And Olivia's 3, and she's just a little doll, what a little sweetheart she is. So they've done a great job. So it's great. That's, I think, the one thing about it that gives somebody like me, who was an absentee father, okay, when you're an NBA player or a coach and you're traveling, 6 months a year, and you're gone a lot, you miss a lot. And even when you're home, there are times that you're absent-minded because you're thinking about the game, or you're watching film when you should be giving James a bath or Elizabeth a good night story or something. And I was guilty of that. I think we all are, because we're surviving, we're successful, and we want to create something for the future. And sometimes that's the sacrifice that you have to give up. Yeah. And sometimes you do it unbeknownst. Sometimes you come back and try to be a super dad then, but you still got the game on your mind. You always do. And it's impossible not to. So, any marriage like mine that can last 55 years, my wife is a saint. She's a saint. Chris is a saint. She's a prayer warrior. And the things that she has done, over our lifetime together, not just with the kids, but with friends and being like, Mrs. Coach when I was coach, was Chris and Pat. She was so into family and trying to bring the wives together and our holiday Christmas parties, Mm-hmm. I remember one time, we had a holiday Christmas party. I won't name the name of the player. It was over at Coral Gables. And she spends the whole month getting ready for this holiday party, so she puts a lot of time and effort in it. She has no expectation other than having everybody have fun. And the gift exchanges and all the food was great.
That's it. Yep. That's the moment.
And so one player didn't show up one night, and he didn't come to it. And so the next day, we're on the wall at American Airlines Arena at the time.
We're on the wall.
We're on the wall. With me and my high school coach, who was backs against the bleachers, he made us stand. At least I let you guys sit down.
Thank you for that.
So we're on the wall, and we're talking about, okay, the game's ahead of us and all that. And so I looked down at the player, and I said, "What'd you do? Did you have a problem last night not coming to the party? The holiday party. It's a family party. It's for everybody." He said the worst thing he could ever say to me. He said, "I fell asleep." I said, "You didn't fall asleep." I said, "You made the biggest mistake of your life. I'm going to tell you one person to stay away from for the next month, okay? Her name is Chris Riley." Yeah. Because you insulted her by not. You insulted her. So players have to understand that there are certain things you don't want to go to, but there are certain things you got to go to. And coaches realize there are certain things that they have to go to for players. We can't go to everything because now everybody has 10, 20 things going on. Right. So, so it's hard. But the holiday party, oh no. And so I made him pay for about a week for not coming to the party.
Shout out to Chris Riley. One thing I love about Chris from the first time I met her to when I see her the next time is it's a consistency in her.
Yep.
She comes with the same joy, the same openness. Yeah. Each time, no matter what is going on, no matter if we're winning, no matter if we're losing, no matter if you and I are bickering, no matter what was going on in these 20 years, she's been consistent, with who she is. And so really shout out to Chris Riley.
She has a tremendous spirit about her. And I like what you said, that regardless of what the situation is, she knows that Dwyane and I are not doing very good today, okay, or whatever it is, or Shaq and I are not. She goes right up, I don't care. I said, I'm fine. I don't have a problem with Dwyane. She goes up and gives you a big hug like nothing's going on. And she does that to everybody. She's got this spirit about her and this light about her. Don't mess with her.
No.
Okay? But she has that, and she brings that to my life every single day. And so she's my prayer warrior. She has told him to keep the gate open for me, and she does that every single day.
Yeah.
And she says, he told me that you're going to have to break the gate down, whatever, So, but anyhow, she has a group of great women called the Wednesday Warriors. Mm-hmm. And they, every Sunday, I don't know why they call it Wednesday, but every Sunday they get on the phone for a couple hours and they talk to each other, man, and and they're reading the Bible, reading verses. And when she comes out of that meeting, man, it's like this, she's like glowing from that standpoint. So faith is a big part of our life, Dwyane, real big part.
Well, I got one more question for you. I could talk to you all day, obviously. And when I started this off, I said the name of my podcast is The Why.
The Why.
The Why. And the reason it is that because a lot of people have been messing up my name my whole life. DWY. But I think it's a great question to end on always is, you're 78 years old. You've been in this game 55 years. What's your why going forward as we sit here?
Well, my why going forward is very, very simple now. It's about my health, about my health. So I can be there for Chris and for my children, as long as I can have great health. Happiness, to be as happy as I can be. And I have a tendency to become very depressed. I'm an Irishman, Alcoholism and depression go with the Irish, but I have a tendency to be a little bit depressed, but happiness, continue to be hungry about life and what's in front of you, from that standpoint. And I've definitely learned about humility and being humble. So I call them the 4 H's. I'm always coming up with either 3 H's or 3 D's or 4, whatever it is. So, in family, it's all about family and friends now. But the game is still central to everything. But my why is to, however many good years I have left on this planet, is to enjoy them in that context, with the people that I love the most, And I love being around the game, So many players that I've coached, in my life that lifted me up.
Yeah.
I mean, the greatness of, I'm the luckiest person ever to enter coaching. And I entered with the greatest team possibly in the history of the game, other than maybe the Celtics of the 60s or maybe Jordan's team. And I never stopped having the opportunity of coaching great players that were there when I showed up. Patrick, Oak, Starks, Derek Harper, Anthony Mason, Herb Williams, then I came down here and the first thing that happened, I got Alonzo and Tim, and we had a 5-year run, and then you came into the life of Pat Riley, and then Shaq came into the life. So he's been good.
He's been good.
He's been surrounding me. He said, what, don't mess this up too many more times.
He's been good.
But I have been so fortunate and to have great players.
Yeah.
And then to have an owner like Mickey Harrison, who's, opened everything up, and we're here together for 28 years. It's almost hard to believe that in this league that I could still be in the same organization and all the same people for 28 years. So everybody that works here with me, I want them to do well. I want them to succeed. And when I leave, I want them to take whatever they can from it. I think that's what somebody's legacy is not, what they write about you, is that, when you leave, you're leaving something for somebody else that's good. Yep. And that's what I want to do.
Well, I will end by saying this is, you said, like lifting you up. And when you're in it, sometimes it's hard to see it, right? Yeah. But when you get away from it, as you know, you get to see the people that's put in your life to help lift you up. And so I just want to thank you on behalf of players that are here now, the players have come before me and with me, for being that figure to want to lift us up, right, and to be that person that is willing to be a leader, say the tough things, say the things you don't want to hear, the uncomfortable things. But also at the same time, in the midst of it, grab you and give you that hug. And so that, which means a lot. So I just want to say I appreciate it.
Just like you signed in the book, it's forever and for always. Yeah. It's forever and for always. I'll love Dwyane Wade.
Yes, sir.
And everything about him.
Pat J. Riley.
Give me that, man.
Thank you.
Look at that. HOF, man.
Oh, sorry.
You tatted yourself up with a Hall of Fame thing.
Just in case I forget one day. My grandkids will help me. Just in case.
And 15 is that's
75.
Oh, that's 75.
I actually became one of the top 75 players in the midst of this.
That's right.
In the midst of this run.
Yeah. We both have had good runs, Dwyane.
No, it's been great.
Keep them going. Yeah.